I woke up this morning with new wisdom on my mind. I know who I am. There's no need to hide. I got something to say. I'm thinking that it's time. Why? Cause I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect. Pay me my respect.
You are now tuned in to the Young Intellect podcast, an open space where experiences and opinions are welcomed, hosted by Andreas, Sam, and Mafwa. Welcoming you to our open space to teach, learn, laugh, and love.
And I am your co-host Sam, here to encourage you to explore different ways to view the world at large.
Back again.
With another audio, I was going to say video, but audio.
And yes, for the third week in a row, our other co-host, Andreas Renee, isn't here. She's still recovering, but we want you guys to send her love and just think of her, pray for her.
Yeah, positive vibes. Send some positive vibes.
But she's doing better, so that's great. And it means that you guys are praying for her, so carry on. So this week for Black History Month, we wanted to discuss a topic that is very predominant in the Black community, and it really separates us as a people, and it divides us from other people as well, because we discriminate against ourselves within it and other people discriminate against us using it, and it's colorism. But we did want to discuss other isms such as texturism and featurism that Black people face, because it's not just colorism that we use to divide ourselves, and other people use to select features in people that they think is better, or other things like that. So we did want to touch upon it, educate some people on texturism and featurism, because colorism is the main one and people don't know that the others exist. And even until recently, I didn't think that it's not like I didn't think these existed, it's just that
You weren't aware?
I wasn't aware that it was an actual thing, like there was an ism for it. So definitely.
Which one? Which one you didn't know?
Texturism. I didn't know there was like it was like, I just thought people just discriminated against it. I didn't know that it was called texturism.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So what exactly is colorism? So on Webster, it says that colorism is the prejudice or discrimination, especially within a racial or ethnic group, favoring people with lighter skin over those with darker skin. So colorism exists in different actual racial groups as well, like Asians, some Asians face colorism, and some like different ethnic groups in different ways do experience colorism, but we wanted to kind of focus on colorism within the Black community.
Yes, and the colorism even in other groups applies even kind of the same, especially it's just that we wanted to focus on it in the Black community, especially in countries that we're aware of, like because it's not we don't have that much access to information on what's going on with colorism in Asia, because we're not surrounded by like their news channels or what's going on, but it would apply very much in the same way. So yeah, that's definitely something.
And the only thing I actually heard is that there's a different origin for those type of colorism. So like I would say for like the Asian community or like other groups, it might just be like colorism is used as to define your class within society. Yeah, but for like the Black community, it's more rooted in slavery. Like usually I would guess like usually they would associate like higher class people with being like the lighter of the group, and lower class people would probably be the darker of that group. But this is not the focus of this episode.
Mm. Definitely. So, before you looked up the definition of colorism, what would you have described it as?
So, what I would describe colorism as, for me, it would just be like favoring lighter skinned people over darker skinned people. That's what I view it as.
Mm. Advantage to a certain in the same group of people, advantage given to a specific kind just because of the shade of their skin. So the lighter you get, well, not even the lighter you get, but that's how it works for us. But yeah, I would have said that.
Yes, colorism benefits, for the most part, they benefit lighter skinned people, and it's a disadvantage to darker skinned people.
Yes.
So, like, how colorism really, well, some of the reasons why colorism started was because in slavery time, there were two types of slaves. They were like the house slaves and the field slaves. Usually, the house slaves would be lighter skin, lighter complexion, and they would probably an offspring of like the white person that owned the slaves. So they would get preferable treatment. Is it preferable treatment? They would,
Yeah.
yeah, preferable treatment, and they'll be inside and not doing as much work outside in the heat as the dark skinned ones.
Yeah, and that carried on out even after all of that happened, and we were given our freedom. Lighter skinned people were they were accepted better into society than darker skinned black people. Um, you know, just like certain things about them. Oh, she's lighter, so they'll be given more opportunities than the darker skinned people. So that really carried on, and then it just turned up to where we are now, where we're having these discussions and we are really trying to address the issue now.
Hmm. And those those special treatment, or like how those special treatment came about, is because they have a proximity to whiteness. You know, their skin color is closest to white, and you know, like in America, the closest that you are, like, it's not even back in the day. It's still very much here to this day. The closer you are to white, the more attractive or appealing or better quotation mark that you are.
Yeah, and um, you hear it a lot in the way people just speak about, like some people. The people are more careful now about the language they use, but the way they speak about dark skinned women, and just the the just how much they are represented in media is very obvious.
I honestly don't think they're careful. I just think they mask it with the word preference. It's my preference. It's my preference that I favor this. I favor that. I like light skins because it's my preference. But like in my head, when I think about it, I'm like, where is your preference coming from? Like you don't, and there's these videos on YouTube that people do these question things. They go around asking questions. So there's a couple videos of like people asking, would you prefer light skin or dark skin? And 9 times out of 10, a black man, whether they're dark skin or light skin, will say they prefer a light skinned woman. And they ask, why do you prefer those? And they will say, because light skins look better, they're softer, or whatever.
Mm,
And it's just the reasons why like don't make any sense, because regardless of your skin color, skin tone, or whatever, you will possess those type of characteristics. You can be a softer, darker skinned woman. You can be a softer, looks has, for me, looks has nothing to, skin tone, actually, let me rephrase that. For me, skin tone doesn't have anything to do with how beautiful you are, but the word perceived darker skinned women as being unattractive and ugly.
definitely. And I think that it might even have something to do with the difference between black women and white women, right when slavery started. The, the way they acted, maybe black women were a lot more independent than white women. And that's why the soft and the harder comes. The black woman like got stuff done. They could do things. They could like they were really the true definition of women, and then white women were more so reliant on the man. It's always been that culture in the Western world. Um, so so once black women started getting lighter, or not started getting lighter, but once the white men started having babies with these black women, and they started mixing, and we had mixed race people, they started saying, okay, so the light skinned black woman is a mixture between a dark skinned woman, and the light skinned woman is a mixture between an original black woman and a white woman, so that's why they're a bit softer and characteristic. But it's not actually true. It's just it's just how it's just racism and mixed into color, the shade of black, different shades of black.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. And even back in the days, they had like the paper bag test.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that was like you had to be the same color as a paper bag. If you've ever seen the color of a paper bag, you had to be the same color of a paper bag or a little bit lighter.
Mm.
And that was basically enforced by Black people.
Mm. And I really see colorism as a virus given to our group by our oppressors, because if you think about it, we probably didn't even see that, okay, this person is lighter, this person is darker, we probably like could see it, but it's not something that we like, oh my gosh, this, you're better, you're worse, this that. But then once we started being treated as such from outside, that's when we started turning around, and then maybe one person started saying, okay, but I'm better than you because I'm lighter. And that's where it really started. And just wanting to be around people with better circumstances. And I feel like that's why maybe light skinned men and light skinned women, um even though it's kind of hard, because dark skinned men, they're not a complete exception, but I don't think it's the same as dark skinned women.
Hmm.
um
It's more inverse. Like,
yeah, yeah, definitely. But like, I guess the point I was trying to make is that maybe people just wanted to be around people or be with people that it would be easier for them, so not that they always get declined a bit. You go with a light skinned woman and she might be able to link you with some people because she has better treatment than going with a dark skinned woman, and she's just being treated like dirt. um so that it could have come from that mindset. That's how it infiltrated our group.
mm, I do agree. It's like a virus. It's more like racism and colorism are like cousins.
Basically.
Like, speaking of, like you said that Black men would get to with a light skin woman because of the opportunities that the because I didn't go in depth into the paper bag thing, but I remember reading that they had some social clubs back in the days
Yeah.
that Black people had, and basically to get into those social clubs you had to be light. You had to be light. You couldn't be darker than a paper bag.
Wow. And this was hosted by black people themselves, right?
Yeah, these were hosted, and this same rule applied to a sorority, a Black sorority, allegedly. Let me put allegedly, a Black sorority that their memberships, whoever they seek to be their members of their sorority, they will seek lighter skinned women,
Mm.
and that's like I think right now it's a popular sorority in the Black community. But during those times, they would say they were looking for lighter skinned women. They would seek the lighter skinned women and not really accept the dark skinned women into their sororities.
And it's all brainwashing, because people are people, and it really has affected us more than we think it has. And we can act like how we feel isn't bad, but it's really self-hatred. because I
Mm.
do remember my mom telling me that one of her friends had a daughter, and when the daughter was young, she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fix her. I'm gonna make her look pretty." And by fixing her, she was like bleaching her daughter's skin at a very young age, and it just goes to show how brainwashed we are, but to not even accept our own children, to want to not even accept our own children on our own selves just because of the shade of our skin. And it shows how much it has really affected us that we'll go to lengths like that to just be more accepted into society or desired.
How old was the child when she started to quotation mark fix her?
I have no idea, probably like two.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like 2-year-old, you putting that into somebody's skin?
Yeah, like I'm gonna fix her, make her look nice, so people, so she could be like, cause she wanted her to be like higher status, like So she was bleaching her skin, and I was like, whoa.
Oh my God. Like I did like listen to a story that was like this, but I just think that's really messed up. Like, cause the bleaching chemicals are actually very toxic to for people. I think like you can lose a liver. I'm not really sure. You can actually get skin cancer.
Yes, that is I know the skin cancer one is definitely a side effect from bleaching, and it's talking speaking about bleaching is such a huge epidemic in so many African countries, and even not even just African countries, some loads of Caribbean countries too, and even in America and the UK, where dark skinned people or just black people in general will bleach because they don't want to be associated with the stigmas around being dark skinned, or they just want to be treated better or desired more.
That is definitely true. Like I actually knew people that, well, yeah, my sister, I think she used to bleach because there are some soaps that you buy. They're like these carrot soaps because bleaching is very like heavy in Haiti as well,
Mm.
which is in the Caribbean if people didn't know. Um, so there's this soap that it has like a lighter skinned woman in it, and it's like a carrot soap or whatever. So a lot of people would buy that soap, and my sister used to buy some soap. She used to mix soaps and just try to I guess lighten her skin to like look a quotation mark better complexion. And actually, when I was in high school, there was this girl that you could tell she was bleaching because her skin was just like it was like ghostly. It didn't look good at all. It just looked really weird.
Mm. Yeah, loads of people. I know so many people with bleach, and in London, you could buy bleaching cream from a hair shop. And it's crazy that you could buy it from a hair shop, that these hair shops that would market towards black people, because black people go into these hair shops, they use the products, they use the hair things, but it wasn't even black people who were selling it. They were Arabs and Asians. So it just goes to show how
Because Asians bleach too. That's why they sell it. They know
that's
about
true.
these products.
They do. Asians do bleach. It's definitely a thing in Asia where the lighter your skin, the better. And they have. I remember seeing these. I think it was picture or poster about um basically describing whitewashing in Asia, the original Asians, and how they were actually more tan, but people use bleaching cream now so they can appear very white. And as you were saying, you can really tell. Sometimes you can really, really, really tell when a black person has bleached, because the skin, like it doesn't sit like a normal light skinned person's skin. Um, Even though it might sound weird, it's just very off in a way.
Hmm. Like it looks a bit ashy-ish, or like it just looks like it's just weird.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, like people bleach their skin to like look lighter because they believe that lighter is more beautiful and stuff like that. And there's so many different side effects to using those bleaching cream. creams, using these bleaching creams. I don't know why I said creams. Some of the side effects are like mercury poisoning.
Ooh.
Like you can get dermatitis, like skin problems. You can have like steroid acne, nephrotic syndrome. You can have so many different side effects. And then people are risking their life, especially skin cancer we mentioned before. People are risking their lives because they perceive that looking this way is good. Looking this way would get them in. Looking this way would get them to a higher position. Looking this way would be more beneficial to them. Even though when you look at it, it just looks extremely weird. But some people have said that when they're bleached, they had a different experience. Their experience was more positive after bleaching.
Mm. And yeah, it's not even bleaching cream. Sometimes there are like bleaching injections, and honestly, like it's just for me, you know, it just shows how brainwashed we are because our melanin is so important and it's so priceless, and people are out there buying it in the black market because they know how beautiful it really is. Like they know the truth behind it, but we've been brainwashed to think that no, ill, we want less of it, we want to appear more like them, and we're destroying it. We're just we're taking it for granted. But I think before we act on bleaching, we have to understand that how's it affecting us and why, like why do I want to do this, and how what is melanin anyways, like it's because you don't want to kill it off, because there's some people out there who are literally having kids with black women or men just so their kids can have melanin because it is so important for humans.
Hmm. It's funny, like listening to you, all I can think about is Black people with melanin trying to take away their melanin, and then other people that don't have as much melanin trying to get melanin through tanning, through injections, and other stuff. It's just like, I just think it's just so messed up how like we want something that we don't have.
It is, and I think the first part of it will be self-exception, because we really just need to understand that there's nothing wrong with us, and all the information that we've been fed are lies, not truth, just lies by people who it benefited for them to speak to us in that way and for us to give us that type of information about us, and create a virus and give it to our community. But
Hmm.
like literally some white people hate the way they tan. They wish they could get more olive. I've heard people say like, I wish I could get olive when I tan. I just get red and my skin peels. And they put on this fake tan to appear darker, and they want something they can't have too. So
Yeah, and people actually blackfish. Like there's a bunch of people that like have put, I don't know what they put on their body. I'm not sure if it's makeup to appear like they're like this quotation mark exotic. I don't really like using that word because I feel like Americans, especially in the Black community, do not know how to use that word properly.
mm,
But they to look like a little like black, but not too black.
yeah.
And these people have actually been able to get better opportunities in comparison to actual Black people, and that's why a lot of people were upset and blackfishing have a lot of backlash because you're trying to look like me, and I can't even get opportunities being me, and you're getting opportunities trying to look like me, faking the funk and changing your skin color, like curling your hair, and being someone that you're actually not, to get the opportunities that we barely get.
Yeah, and since social media is such a huge platform, how have you seen colorism play out in social media?
Mhm. I think like most of the time, I really felt like colorism was being perpetrated in the media. But I feel like recently you've seen a little bit more of like dark skinned women being like promoted
Mm,
just in like in social media, like the pages that you see. Because I follow pages like that promote stuff like that. So I see stuff like that.
Mm,
But like I would say social media, I mm, I don't really know. Because I would say like the actual media, that's different.
mm. Okay, yeah. I definitely agree with you because social media is more run by the people in terms of the opinions being expressed. So we've definitely been down for a very long time. So people are just like, no, we're gonna praise dark skinned women, we're gonna praise black women, and you see people saying that. I don't know when it was, but I was on social media. It's probably a while ago, and someone was like, shout out to all the black women, and someone commented, what about the white women too? What about all women? Shout out to all women, not just black women. And the lady was like, no, I said what I said. Shout out to black women. And it's just that, just even though we are all humans, it's just once we were all given a platform to speak, we're able to bring up those around us. And that's why I feel like dark skinned women have definitely been more appreciated in recent times because we have more control of that. But I definitely agree. Colorism in media itself, especially like news and TV TV shows, is more back in the day, was definitely prevalent.
I when you talk about like media, so for me, I do think like media still perpetuates colorism fully.
Mm,
Because like who are in control of the media? I feel like it's probably mostly white men,
mm-hmm,
and they probably prefer more people that are more closer to white proximity. So for me, like I do feel like the media still perpetuates colorism, and that's what kind of influences this generation. And you have kids saying all this crap and not really knowing like why they're saying it, because their favorite rapper, their favorite athletes are saying stuff like that, or doing stuff like that, or living their life a certain way.
I feel like we fail to realize how teachable children are. And the reason why they talk, walk, speak the way they do, and just are the way they are is because they've learned it. And we turn around and say, oh my gosh, whose kids are these? They're our kids. We raised them. They came up of ideas that we passed down to them. Um, so if if we ever want to see the children change, we have to be able to change because they're so teachable, and even we are, but they come with like a fresh slate, and we're painting the canvases for them, and we teach them these things, and that's why they pick up when they're looking up to these influencers. They're looking at the media, they're watching these news channels, and they see certain things, they're picking up from it, and automatically a white girl watching something and a light skinned girl watching something and a dark skinned girl watching something are going to come out with that same piece of information feeling different. One's going to feel like they're on top of the world, one feels like, yeah, I'm good, and one feels very low. And that's how the media has definitely played into it, because we're so in touch with the media. We keep up with the media. We get our news from the media, and if we're doing that and they're displaying these images and messages, of course that we're going to feel certain types of ways, especially dark skinned women and dark skinned people.
Yeah, I definitely do agree that children are very impressionable. And I do think like the difference now, from the media back in the 90s or whatever, than the media now, is that they're not as blatantly colorist as they were.
Mm,
Because back in like the probably the early 2000s and the 90s, people used to say stuff that were outright colorist, like, oh, I don't want to be, because I remember watching a show and this woman was like, I don't want to be with a, she was a colorist, she was a dark skinned woman and she was a color, she said, I don't want a dark skinned black man because I don't want no black babies, basically that. But then later on revealed the reason why she didn't want that is because she didn't want her child to experience what she had experienced throughout her whole life.
mm. And yeah, that's so sad because you go through things and then it makes you hate yourself. That the experiences that people go through, especially dark skinned people, and But black people, the experiences we've been through made us look at ourselves and hate ourselves. And that's why it's very important that to fix this situation, we have to start with self love. We have to love ourselves above everything. There's no going outwards and telling people to treat us better. Um, I think the main thing is loving ourselves, because we can't expect other people to go out there and, tell us that we're beautiful and all of that. But we do need to love ourselves, and that's where it starts.
It's honestly probably gonna take a while for us to fully do it because we're so brainwashed and we're so set in that way of thinking that this skin tone is better than the other. We're so set, like it's just on our everything.
100%. And it's definitely going to take a few generations. So I don't expect ever seeing it good in my lifetime. Um, so that's that. And I do think that representation, especially as I said, we're very consumed in the media, and
Hmm.
we watch TV channels and we look at news. So I definitely believe representation is very important, because before, black people never saw themselves represented, and then especially dark skinned people, so they never thought they could be certain things, and they'll be like, oh no, I only work these type of jobs. I can only work these type of jobs because I look like this. But when you see people like you doing something, you're like, I can do it because they're doing it. So
Hmm.
representation is definitely a thing.
Yeah, and the media right now showcases more lighter skinned people. Their top black actresses are usually mixed or light skinned women, so they lack representation for non-ambiguous looking black women. Like if you see the top Netflix shows or whatever the top shows that are on, the leads are usually lighter or mixed women, and they sometimes recycle the same actress. Like I like Zendaya, but she's always playing a lead, and like she's a good actress, but she's not the only type of black woman. We need other representation of black women, and I feel like that's where it's kind of lacking. Yeah, it's getting there, but I feel like the dark skinned black women are always in a particular character's type. Like they're always maybe the sassy friend,
Yeah.
the one that's a little bit ghetto or hood, or just the one with attitude problem.
One.
And it's not represent like it's not a good representation of like how dark skinned women can behave. Like you see them perpetuate the idea that lighter skin is more like softer or whatever. It's not like a obvious one. It's not one that's stated, but like you can just see it through how they formulate their characters.
Yeah, and that's what, and I guess it even just saying that, it goes both ways. Colorism against even light skinned women too, just to show that they're soft, and they play a part, and they fall into line a bit more, because there've definitely been some light skinned women who rebelled and stood up against things and said no, and were the leaders. But mostly times it mostly in TV shows, you only see the dark skin. It's really the dark skinned women who are initiating these movements and being the rebels and standing up and saying no and causing trouble, quotation marks, causing trouble.
There's something that you said, and I wanted to like kind of like bring it to light. You said that light skins experience colorism.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say that they experience colorism. I would say they experience the byproduct of colorism based on like the definition or what colorism is. I would say it's the byproduct of it, if you get me.
Nah, I would say it is colorism, because they experience a certain type of, even though it's not, I would say even being, even being on the other end of colorism is still colorism, being treated, because that's the whole thing. And okay, I guess it depends how you define colorism. But if you're saying prejudice, or just if you're saying prejudice, then they experience colorism. But if it's discrimination, but they don't. But well, they do. I feel all black people experience colorism. And it's not unique to or exclusively for dark-skinned people, because even though we might perceive it as darker skinned people as it being better, or I mean it being worse for us, we can't really stand in their shoes and say that it is that way, um, because as light-skinned people they might get frustrated that they are treated a certain way, and we can't speak on that, if it makes sense.
The reason why I said that is because the definitions, like if you're defining, it's the favoring a lighter skin over a darker skin. But if the definition is just like prejudice over a skin tone, then I would say yes, they experience it. But if it's like favoring a lighter skin over a darker skin, I wouldn't really say it's like direct colorism. I say it's like a byproduct of it.
And personally, I don't think colorism is preferring a darker skin over lighter skin. I think it is colorism, so preferring a shade over another. And the way it plays out in our society is that darker skin people are on the bottom. So that's why we use it in that way. But if we were in a different society where it was the other way around, it will still be colorism, but it will be flipped. So I can't say that colorism is specifically for darker skinned people being treated better, but I would say that's how it is played out today in society.
Or worse, dark skin, worse.
Dark skinned people being treated worse, but that is definitely how it is played out in today's society. Yeah, because color is color. It's not just if it's if it was dark skinned people being treated worse, I would think that the ism will have something. It will be self explanatory in the ism.
The definition would be different.
Um, I think the definition. I don't think that for me colorism is just the actual discrimination within a group of people that are the same, like are perceive the same color, not this person, this specific person being treated better. And if it's flipped, it's not colorism, you know.
Okay, I see where your point is.
Yeah.
I see. I get it. Okay, so do you think there's a such thing as light skin privilege?
Definitely there is such thing as light skin privilege in all aspects of society. I won't say life, but society. Just because, you know, people treat you better if you're light skin. Or yeah, people do treat you better if you're light skin. I've definitely faced both ends of it because I'm not like dark skin, but I'm not light skin either. So when I'm around darker skin people, I do notice myself sometimes being treated a bit better, and it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. And when I'm around light skin people, I do notice that I'm just like completely dismissed sometimes, and it just makes me feel very unseen, unheard, and there definitely is, especially in the workplace, in terms of being desired, and yeah, maybe even parents. I have no idea.
I actually like the fact that you said it made you feel uncomfortable, because a lot of people will bask in the glory of being favored over of just feeling like, this is weird. Like, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. They just take it and run with it and be like, oh, I'm like, it's because of this. But honestly, I just see, especially my people, I just see us as people. And if someone's like treating one better because of something that is a pigmentation of the skin, it's just like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? Like it's just very weird. It's not something that I feel happy about.
Because that's interesting that you actually are like in the middle. For me, I'm like in the dark spectrum, because dark skin is relative to where you are. But in the US, I am dark skinned. And I would say I'm dark skinned some places also, but they might not see me as darker skin some places because there's people that might be darker than me. So, and I don't like get the positive aspects of it. Like, I honestly feel like in a room, I'm the least person that people would look at. Like, I am closer to having more Afrocentric things about me. So I'm the least likely to be talked to. Like I always felt kind of small in a way. I was like I talked about being insecure, and one of the reasons why I was insecure was also my skin tone, because I always felt like people didn't like me because I was dark skinned, and like especially growing up in the area that being dark skinned was looked down on, like it was the worst thing you could be sometimes.
Mm.
I never like had the experience of people like saying, "Oh my God, like you're pretty," or this and that. I never even got the "you're pretty" for a dark skin girl, which is actually a backhanded compliment because like what do you I just never understood that phrase. What do you mean like dark skinned people cannot be pretty? Like if you're pretty, like you have to be light.
Mm.
So I never really got that. I felt like I was always the that person in the back of the room that you never see or notice, but they're there.
Yeah, 100%. And that is definitely how I feel dark skinned people get treated. Um, and I guess featurism, as we do want to talk about, plays into that as well. Um, because not all dark skinned people experience it to that extent. And the reason why we did want to discuss featurism and texturism, because they do play into the way certain groups of people are basically appreciated or experience certain things. So
Hmm.
yeah,
So what would you describe futurism as?
is basically the prejudice or discrimination um, against a certain group of people, and then I would say like within a racial or ethnic group, based on features they have, and the features will be the nose, and maybe I would say
Lips.
the nose is a very big one, because that's a really big feature that people use to distinguish black and white people.
And the lips. I would also add the lips.
And lips too. Yeah, nose and lips. Both of those are features that people use to distinguish black and white people, and it was a very big distinguishable feature. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I describe featurism as.
E- Even though like bigger lips is becoming a thing and people are getting lip injections, it was not like that like a couple years ago before like white people made it fashionable. I would mostly say the Kardashians, but I'm not sure if it's them that started it
Mm,
before they made it fashionable. And the thing about like futurism is that even within the dark skin group,
mm-hmm,
one dark skin woman might be more favored because her features are more European. Her features are more Eurocentric
mm, yeah,
than the other one. The other one would just be like, nah, like they might say, nah, you're ugly. And when I think about the word ugly, and usually it refers to someone where your Afrocentric features, I'm like, why is the Afrocentric features ugly? Why do we view it like that?
exactly. And it kind of reminds me of like all the people who got famous and got a nose job, like I don't really care, Beyonce, um, and
Girl,
Michael Jackson, and all of those people who and that's featurism, because
oh,
you
can
know,
we finish? Oh, you can finish.
oh yeah, like that's basically featurism, because they know that they will be more desired, and maybe casted for a few more roles because they had a slimmer nose, and it's basically just lies that have been told to us again, that the more European, the more European
Eurocentric.
features, yeah, Eurocentric features that you have, the more desired you are, which the better you are, not more desired, and the more, but the desiring part was a byproduct of having these features.
Because Because even within the light skin group, light skinned women with more Afrocentric features will probably be looked down on, and they might not experience like the bad side of colorism as a dark skinned woman, but they would experience the featurism aspect, and they might just feel like, how not what I'm trying to say is like they might feel like in the spectrum of how dark skins feel in relation to light skin to how they feel in relation to having Afrocentric features. Do that
100.
make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And not all light skinned people have the same experience, and not all dark skinned people have the same experience. If you have, as you were saying, if you have a light skinned woman with a big nose and a light skinned woman with a smaller nose, 9 times out of 10, people will go for the light skinned woman with the smaller nose. And it's just how it goes. In the same way people bleach to be more accepted by society, the same way people get lip injections or even reduce their lips, because before it was probably more of a lip reduction thing for black people, but now that somehow it's just people just really love these black features and want all these black features without actually being black. um like big lips are now desired, and but the nose part is still a thing. And yeah.
Yeah, maybe maybe people will get nose injections in the next couple of years. You just never know.
You never know, because even the body type that was desired has changed. Before, people like the big boobs and a small butt, but now it's like they'll prefer a big butt and smaller boobs. But people definitely want the full package now, so they want slim waist, big butt, big boobs. But before, that was just like, you'll know. And at one point it was really that skinny model that was desired, like the yeah, just small chest, the way Naomi Campbell used to look, looked when she was younger, that type of figure. But now it's, you have to look like an S, and you have to,
S.
yeah, you like Coca-Cola bottle, your butt has to make a P. If it doesn't, like, you're not it. And yeah, it's just things change, so you never know.
So maybe featureism, I don't know, like if featureism will actually be eradicated. I still think even if like things change and it becomes more trendy, people will probably prefer it in other people that are not black. Because even like with changing the features and changing the body shape, like people will still go outside their like race and view someone else that has these alterations better than, or view them as more like, what's the word?
Like,
Um,
view them as like more desirable.
more desirable than someone that actually has those features.
Yeah, 100%. And like, uh, you kind of have to have the whole thing for you to be like, oh yeah, she's perfect or they're perfect. And we're speaking from more of a woman's standpoint, because we're women, and it's kind of hard for us to go outside ourselves and speak from an experience we never had as men. So this is why we're saying her, she, more than him, he.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I think like for men, it's kind of like the opposite. Like even with colorism, for men, like people, like colorism does not affect black men the same way that it affects black women.
100. I would say the same, especially because there's kind of like a fetish for black men, in the black community and outside the black community.
Definitely, because like how you define colorism at the beginning, how you said it's just preference for like one skin tone, and I would say using that definition that lighter skinned men would experience it more than darker skinned men, because like you said, darker skinned men are more fetishized because people believe they're stronger, they're more manlier, they're like they have a big penis. But like when they compare, oh, why don't, because the same videos were asked about men too, why don't you prefer light skinned men? And they were like, oh, because they're feminine, they don't have as, their penis are not that big, blah blah blah, they're like always crying or something like that, which is actually not true. Like you can be whatever skin tone you are and have those attributes.
100%. And Yeah, I feel like light skinned men get like, oh, they're more feminine, da 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 da, and it kind of like plays over into like it's the same thing, but we want like because the light skinned women are seen as more feminine, but that's more desirable to men, and the dark skinned men are seen more masculine, but that's more desirable to women, and it's just
Mm.
like, okay, that's stupid because color doesn't mean like feminine or masculine, you know. So
And then like I guess for featureism, like even if you do have a bigger lip or whatever, I think the nose thing, some people still have issues with it, regardless of if you're a man or a woman,
yeah,
because people always make fun of Jay-Z and the fact that his nose is very Afrocentric. But like what the bigger lips like is viewed as more desirable. It's like even in the past, like if a man had like a bigger lip, it would be like more desirable. Like, oh, he can do this with them lips.
it's very true. And the thing is, like, imagine, like, I really feel like we do need to be careful with saying these things because if you're saying these things and someone actually goes and changes it about themselves, like you played into you played into it and made someone feel that they weren't good enough to be who they were. And no matter if you say, oh, but you didn't make the decision for you, you were part of the programming in their head and they were treated a certain way by you, which is why they did what they did. um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and I would say that
I would say,
I'll keep my nose just in case one day it just magically people love bigger noses. So
and yeah, I would say don't pay attention to people because they will make fun of you and say all the stuff for you to change a feature about yourself. And in the same breath, when you actually do it, they go back and make fun of you. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? People are very fickle. So whatever their opinions are, if you don't want to change something about yourself, if you do not see anything wrong with you, don't change anything. Don't let outside forces influence you into changing things about yourself that you don't think you need to change because they will flip back on you the same way they're telling you to do it. They will tell you not to do in the same breath when
yeah,
you're done,
yeah.
after you've done it.
And I definitely agree with that. And the if once you change that part of you, they're gonna pick something else up and be like, okay, but your arms are flappy, okay, but your stomach's big, because like outside all of this, outside of colorism, featurism, and texturism, you have people making fun of people because of their weight, just their build, and you know it's like we've been given an example of the perfect human being, and if you're not that, you're getting it. So yeah, there's really no being that perfect person. The person doesn't exist, and if they do, good for them. We've never seen them, literally, because I've just never seen anyone who's just been that person. So you know, yeah, it's impossible to be that person, but it's very possible to be you, to be comfortable in your skin, and I think that's something that we do need to focus on.
Okay. And I also wanted to like kind of define texturism since you mentioned it and we haven't went over it. So basically texturism is a preference for like in the Black community, if you do have like natural hair, they will prefer you have looser curls or
Mm.
like straighter hair
Yeah,
in comparison to the tightest curl, which is from what I know, like it's defined as 4C.
yeah, saying like there may be some more because I heard someone talk about 4Z or D, but you know 4C hair isn't as desired as um you know 3A hair is referred to as nappy, and like you can't lay the edges. And listen, if your edges can't lay, just leave it. You know, you're beautiful the way you are. Not everybody needs them slick back edges or anything, because some people's hair just don't work like that. And if you have to do too much to make your hair accepted in that way, it's the same thing as bleaching or getting a nose job just to fit people's standard. Um, uh, People were really perming their hair, putting really bad chemicals in their hair just to make it straight, and that's texturism too, because we don't accept our
Or
hair.
natural.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
natural hair.
And I also wanted to mention my own experience. Like when I actually cut off my perm ends and decided to go natural. Like even my own family, they were like, "What are you doing?" Like, and every time I have my natural hair, your hair isn't done. Like you need to go and get your hair done. And I know a lot of people might experience the same thing as me because like the older generation still doesn't accept like the movement. Now there's a movement. I'm not sure how long it started for people to be more natural. Even within that movement, people would be like, "Oh, I like natural hair," but then look back at it, they only like the loose texture natural hair because to them the tighter ones don't look as kept. They don't look as presentable.
Yeah, and like as you said, like get your hair done, and my hair would be done. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like it is done. Like, but people really just want to see you with not showing off your natural hair, especially if it is. But even if it is looser curl, I feel like when it comes to black women's natural hair done, back in the day, mostly back in the day meant done back in the day meant your natural hair wasn't out. And if your natural hair was out, it had to be straightened or some stuff, some chemicals, a huge amount of heat had to be in it. And it is crazy because even with natural hair, as you did say, some people think that the looser um, texture is better, and it's very true. I've definitely faced a lot with my hair, it being just like very tough, and I don't know what you guys call it here, but in the UK we call them pepper grains, or I think like someone called them BDBs at the back of your hair, like always having to brush them out because people were like, yeah, like my hair curls at the back of my head. I don't know what you want me to do about it. Um, like not all black people hair does it, but definitely people receive heat for their hair doing that.
And I'm just like, I'm not gonna do my edges. That's too much work. I can't do it. And my hair, it's too much. Like I'm not gonna do it because oh it looks presentable or whatever. Like my hair is presentable as it is.
Mm,
Like what makes my hair not presentable? What makes it unkept?
exactly. And literally the only answer they'll have for that question is the texture of your hair.
So I wanted to ask before we close off, what actions do you think we can take to just improve in all these things that we're facing in the Black community, like texturism, featurism, and colorism?
I think the first thing or the most important thing is just embracing what you have. Whether your feature is desired or it's not, that's one thing that you have to do, embrace it and not see yourself as better than anyone else, but just love what you have and just that being it. So not saying I have this and I'm better and I'm the best. Say I have this and I love it.
I definitely agree. I also think like people should just educate themselves and rewire their brain
Mm,
because I do think like our brain is wired to think a certain way, to think like the things that make us us is bad. And well, I do think like parents should. I do think some things start at home as well, even though like society teaches a lot of stuff. But if your parents tell you otherwise, like you might be shaped to be a better person. Like if your parents loves the skin that you're in, love your hair, like praises you for however you look, you're first of all, you're not experiencing the negative, not really experiencing, you might still experience it, but it's not going to affect you as much because you know yourself, you know your worth. You're not going to be so quick to change. And also, you might not be a colorist if you're like you thought at home to just this person is different, but they're beautiful. Beauty comes in all different colors. They come in all different race. If you're teaching stuff like that, it just, I think like it's just helping the community just flourishing more.
100%. And as you, for parents, I think that since some of us are grown and preparing to be parents ourselves, letting them know that there's certain things that they can't say around your kids, there's certain ways that they have to act, not like change themselves and they can't be themselves, but you're not about to tell them you're not about to make them feel bad about their hair or their skin color, and you're gonna definitely call out your parents on comments they make about that, especially if you have kids or you're preparing to have kids and want to raise them to be different and not continue this cycle. And also, as a parent, and it also, if you are looking to become a parent or you are a parent, make sure that you are not saying certain things to your kids so they can pick up on these things and carry them out into the world and become those people. Because as we did emphasize before, kids are very teachable and impressionable. So if you say things, they're going to go out and repeat it into the world. They're not going to think opposite. They're most likely going to take the same stance you are until they're old enough to, or that they're old enough to know better or do better for themselves. So that's definitely one thing. And I would say another is to also be aware of the situation in the community. Not just be like, people are complaining, they're not actually going through this. Like, people are actually being discriminated against because of their color, because of features and textures. So be aware of that, especially if you're on the other side. And just if you're on the other end of it, and just be aware of it, and don't act like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. Ooh, that's a good point and good advice, actually. No, we can all make this. I feel like we can move forward, but it would just require more work.
It will, and I think it'll just require like people not ignoring it and being like, no, we're fine, it doesn't exist, it's not true, because it is real, it exists, and it is true. So I think that would be great.
I definitely agree with that point, because there's a lot of people that actually minimizes other people that actually experience colorism's experience and be like, well, or sometimes they would relate, well, that's their preference. And I just wanted to say that it's okay to have preferences, but once you say you have a preference and then you're downgrading people, I don't think that's preference at that point. I feel like if you say you like this and then you just move on and not bash anybody, that's fine. But once you start bashing people, and that's when it's like you're a colorist.
Exactly. I really enjoyed this discussion because I'm not even perfect myself, because I've grown up in this society, and there definitely maybe some things that I do or say unconsciously, even about people's features, maybe even about skin color, for both ends of it, and or like shade of skin. And I need to do better. So the first thing I would say is really just see where you are and what comments you make on these situations.
And being more self-aware. Yeah, I definitely probably have said something about somebody's feature. It's just like growing up in an environment that's what they teach you. And then like as a child, you probably just taking that stuff and just saying it. And I do think like as children, it's different, but once you grow up, it's your choice to choose how you want to be.
Yeah, you have to unlearn and relearn as an adult, and you have the ability to. So at a point, you can't just be like, oh, I was taught this by my parents. At some point, there needs to be accountability and action into changing that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Accountability. I like that word. So thank you for joining us today on the Young Intellect podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and tell a friend about us. And make sure you take care of yourself and your mind.
Cause I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect. I'm a young